will always promote the research that's required to look into history, to the real history of how one world governance has come to be, has been created, and who founded it. And I think it's important as to even explain what's going on, even right up to the connection with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, because obviously they're a part of it. If the people who founded One World Governance and what's happening today are all aristocrats, lords, barons, dames, under the British Empire, under the Crown, under the Knights of Garter, under all of those, under City of London or the Bank of England. History is really, really important. And it's interesting that America has had an allegiance with Britain for a very long time, way before the late 1800s, early 1900s. But the only thing I'm bringing up today is are two people in the Pilgrim Society that helped found this whole entire globalist strategy, which was Henry Wellcome. Is he Sir? Henry Wellcome, who founded vaccines and pushed them through. The British Empire then put them through all their wars and all their expeditions and so forth in the early 1900s. The Second Boer War was a mass experimentation with those vaccines, with Henry Wellcome's vaccines. Henry Wellcome is American. And there's also Andrew Carnegie, Sir Andrew Carnegie, which is funny how he got a peerage by the monarch at the time. And he basically rewrote the history between Britain and America in all the libraries. And I think there was the use of his institution and so forth. I do not know too much. I have not read too much about him, but there's stuff that you can look at that is not my work, and it's all public knowledge. It's all articles and so forth. Wes Final, who I absolutely love on social media, on Twitter, they do a lot of research. They actually have the newspaper clippings of everything that happened in history. They always tell you on the day, on a day, what happened in history. They are like a living archive, and they're absolutely amazing. They've broken down with a lot of other accounts the true history of the British Empire and Pilgrim Society, UN, Poirot Institute, and Wellcome, who were in charge of the vaccines for COVID, etc., etc. And Poirot, by the way, Poirot is a Rothschild, is a Henry de Worms, first Baron of Poirot. So it's all interconnected. But Rothschild is not the head of any of this. They are a player within the Pilgrim Society, founded in 1902. So Pilgrim Society as well also had King Edward. King Edward was a part of the Pilgrim Society when it was founded. So was Winston Churchill. three Rothschilds, etc., etc. But we'll get to that. So I think the first thing is, do have a look at my community page. These are excerpts from Wes's own work about Andrew Carnegie. In 1898, published a book in New York titled The Reunion of Britain and American, A Look Ahead. It was a chapter that was removed in subsequent printings of his book, The Gospel of Wealth. Back then, it was known that basically the Carnegies were funding American libraries to rewrite American history. Yeah. Profligate King Edward II in Britain relies on Carnegie gifts to pacify his fawning aristocrats. In 1902, when the Pilgrim Society was founded, Carnegie had resigned himself to the inevitability of an aristocratic class ruling the masses. So he's a very interesting character alongside Henry Wellcome, who created the vaccines and its connection with Pirbright Institute and everything else, which is, both Henry Wellcome and Henry de Worms, first Baron of Pirbright, were around when Pilgrim Society was founded. Well, it was right on time, wasn't it? So you can see the connections there. It's also interesting how when you do look into the history of things and you look into the research that's been done by others, the imagery and the symbolism used. Cecil Rhodes with the Eye of Horus. Cecil Rhodes, yeah. One of the main initiators of one world governance and yeah, a big part of it, big part of Pilgrim Society. I think was he the one who was discussing communism, the creation of communism or construction of communism with the Queen Victoria? I'm not sure if he was the one. I think he was. I can't remember. I've looked at so much stuff. But here you see the wink of Henry de Worms, Rothschild, first Baron of Pirbright, and that interesting structure up the top. For me, that doesn't look like a lighthouse, but you can make up your own mind. Yeah. And then you see here all of the work of the vaccines and the Wellcome medical cabinets or chests that Wellcome created for the British circa 1900s. By 1898, I think they were in the Congo trying to find pathogens and poisons and stuff, trying to find things. So they were doing the research there. And then not soon after, the Second Boer War happened, and the vaccines were then experimented on the living across the colonies, including Australia. And many died. 14,000 children died. Altogether, I think 60,000 people died. British subjects. Interesting that this is 1906, how Henry Wellcome was going to make Africa habitable because all the insects, pretty much there was a whole plague across Africa that was going to kill you, and so they needed the vaccines to be able to live in Africa, which is interesting, seeing that all the Africans lived there just fine prior. But this is a true article. Oh yes, history just repeats itself, doesn't it? There's another account that I love called Truth or Justice, or Toby. I call their name's Toby on the account, and they they have really good a really good understanding of the current circumstances, but also history and lineage of the aristocracy, and how they're all interconnected. At the moment, Toby's gone against Candace Owens because of her father-in-law, Lord Farmer, and Heritage Trust and things like that. So that's been really, really interesting. But yeah, I'm in full support of Toby and their work. Amazing work. So this is just some excerpts from basically a whole thread on social media of Toby's. In the harsh brackets, I have added things just so to make some links to other parts of history, which I will tell you what I've added. But it's a really it's hard to digest and absorb, but it's nonetheless it's important. So I'm going to read this excerpt that I've taken from a thread of Toby's, and this is all credit to Toby and Toby's work. Chatham House was convened by Lionel Curtis, an advocate of British Empire federalism, one world state, which is to replace the monarchy as well. He was made Companion of Honor by King George V for achievements. Inaugural meeting chaired by Robert Cecil, Privy Council, and Edward Grey, Garter, or Knights of the Garter, and Privy Council. Knights of the Garter is the highest achievement you can receive as support of the monarchy. Formalised it. Arthur Balfour, member of Cecil family, was also Order of the Garter and Privy Councillor. And now this is my insert. Producer of Balfour Declaration, creating Israel with Rothschild. And John Klein's Privy Councillor, where its first presidents, the origins came from Lord Milner's kindergarten. Milner was also Garter and Privy, and the Fabians run by Sidney Webb and Ernest Cassell, Privy Council. And of course, Bertrand Russell was the chief ideologue behind One World Government, whose lineage includes Garter and Privy Council, and whose ancestor, the first Duke of Bedford's son, created the Bank of England, and Churchill's ancestor, first Duke of Marlborough. I don't know if you know much about the origins of Bank of England, but that is really important as well. Banking is a Roman Empire system, and it was through, I think it was through the Vatican, but through papal funding, it was brought over to create the Bank of England through William of Orange, and John Churchill, I think it was also involved in its establishment. And that's how Churchills became very, very wealthy, much wealthier than the Rothschilds, much, much more wealthier. They are part of the founding core of Bank of England. Bank of England is City of London, and they create all central banking policy and all globalist banking policy, including the integration of CBDCs, open banking, digital transformation, the digital restructure of our economy, which is happening as we speak. They're not waiting for your permission. They've never waited for your permission if you look into banking. and if you look into your own banking, including community banks within your nation, that's happening now through fintech, through the implementation of fintech. And the fintech is usually a American company or that's been integrated globally, used up globally as part of this whole agenda. So that's all happening. The Duke of Devonshire, William Cavendish's descendant, married JFK's sister, Kathleen. The Kennedys are related, are connected, interconnected, and interwoven into this aristocracy. That's why I guess they're the royal family of America. But they are not the people that have been on board, like Carnegie and Wellcome and so many others, like oh my God, Rockefellers and all of those since 1900s. Anyway, Anne Wintour's ancestor married the fourth. That's to my knowledge, by the way. I could be wrong. So this is all I know at this point. Anne Wintour's ancestor married the fourth Duke of Devonshire, while Nazi backer Oswald Mosley's sister-in-law was married to the 11th Duke, who was a Cecil, who in turn first cousins with Winston Churchill. The descendants of the original shareholders of Bank of England include all the descendants of William of Orange and most of 32 dukes, as well as earls, lords and barons. In other words, the New World Order and their Communist World Order was created by landed gentry in England. The Order of the Garter is the highest honour of the Order of the Garter, not Knights of the Garter. The Order of the Garter is the highest honour in the peerage. The Privy Council, like Jacob Rees-Mogg, that's an insert by me. Jacob Rees-Mogg, son of William Rees-Mogg, who I've already discussed just previously, knew all about cryptocurrencies. In 1997, that was a planned strategy, as was the digitalization of our world. He helped create China through City of London investment. And what else? Created Soros. Has been a part of most moves towards one world governance. His son Jacob Rees-Mogg, who was the supposed leader of Brexit, which really he was just a pawn. Anyway, he is the Lord President of Privy Council to formerly the Queen, now the King. So he leads the Privy Council, which is the advisory to the monarch and the monarchy regarding political matters. So, The Order of the Garter is the highest honour in the peerage. The Privy Council are political advisors to the monarch. In other words, do their bidding. The King's Council is self-explanatory. It is the Royal Institute of International Affairs, Chatham House, that created the EU, UN, and their think tanks Bilderberg, Club of Rome, WEF. This is all done for the benefits of those descendants holding Bank of England shares, soon to create a central bank digital currency. US, this is my own insert, US's mothership is a CFR, which is the Council of Foreign Relations. Chatham House's American sister created for the British Empire, along with the Bank of England's or City of London's Fed Reserve. So the Fed was created through Bank of England as well. I think it was also through the Pilgrim Society, American members. So let's have a look at this. Chatham House was, so this is the post. This is another post by somebody else, but this is here, chathamhouse.org. On its website, 1946, Chatham House and US Sister Institute, the Council of Foreign Relations, give voice to a UK-US special relationship. The term is used by Winston Churchill, who becomes president of the institute. So Lionel Curtis started the CFR as the New York branch of the Royal Institute of International Affairs, which is Chatham House, in a hotel in Europe in 1919. That's why they are sister institutes. This guy, I mean, we have already shown that, what's her face? Hillary has called Council of Foreign Relations the mothership, which it is. It is the driver of all policy in America. So you're fundamentally, your policy is run by Britain and the British Empire back in 1919 through to today. So over 100 years. And that's where all of your policy instruction is received and then followed. So any political puppet that's in office follows those instructions. And of course, Bertrand Russell was a chief ideologue, which is what I've said, but this is an article by Bertrand Russell called "One World Government Can Prevent the War Nobody Can Win." Let me see if I can say something here, maybe the first paragraph. "We are here assembled to consider the most grave and terrible problem with which mankind has ever been confronted. Ways have been discovered by which, in all likelihood, the human race could be destroyed, or at best reduced to a few destitute wanderers. And there is every reason to believe that if a great war breaks out, the new weapons will be used to the full, in spite of the catastrophic destructiveness." This is very interesting because he's talking about war being the main driver of the destruction of the human race, but now it's climate change, isn't it? It's just interesting how they've moved things along and just moved the goalpost.